Alright, so would like to acknowledge my co-author Shahajahan Miyan, and then the other members of the team from DAFWA as well. Now this particular project is a new project that we started. It's funded by GRDC and it's led by Stephen Simpfendorfer from New South Wales DPI. And I'd like to share with you some of the data from that project. So just first off, crown rot. Whiteheads, golden crowns is what you need to look for. If you don't have that, you don't have crown rot. The other symptom that you often will see is this pink discoloration at the base. Not always, so you can't use that always as a characteristic. Some people have whiteheads and say they have crown rot. You look at your crowns and make sure that that's what it is. Because it could be take-all, it could be other things. Just again, the focus paddocks, again from this DAFWA project that were monitored, just to show you the trend. Now this is of all 184 paddocks. I think what Roger presented was just the cereal component, wasn't it? So this is all 184. So there is a difference there if you're wondering why are we getting some different trends. And what you can see overall, over those 5 years, is again, the blue component, which is the below detection level, is going down as you move from 2010 to 2014. And look, this red and orange, the medium to high levels of crown rot are going up from year to year. And 14 obviously was a big year for crown rot. Just the latest information from February 17, 26 out of the 123 paddocks that were sent in from growers' paddocks, that is, this is not focus paddocks, this is growers' paddocks, were in the medium to high risk for crown rot. So that is concerning, and obviously there's more samples that are going to be coming in, and we'll keep people updated on that. So as part of the first thing that we did for the project was do a targeted survey where we asked agronomists and growers, give us some paddocks that had whitehead expression. And what we did was we plated those stubble that we collected from those paddocks over the 2 years. In 2013 autumn we collected, and 2014 autumn. Okay, the year up there actually refers to the growing year. That's why they are different. Now what you can see is that the red and orange component, the medium to high level of incidence of recovery from those stubble, are consistently across the whole region of WA. We don't have a little hot spot somewhere. It'd be nice for me to say, oh, the problem is somewhere down here. But it's all across the whole region. We found paddocks that had high levels of infected stubble. Moving on to some data that we had where we looked at yield loss for different varieties for wheat and barley. And we ran these trials for the first time this year in Wongan Hills and Merredin. This is what they looked like. We had an inoculated and an ill plot. You can see, or we should be able to see, I mean I can see them from here but maybe not on the back, but you can see these heads that are slightly leaning and white. That's the crown rot effect there. The disease, for a selection of varieties, we actually had 12 different varieties. I'm only putting in 7 here. But what you can see, so we looked at Basal browning, how far it moved up the stem, and the more it moves up the stem, the more severe it is. Emu rock is one of the ones that had the lowest score, and it is actually rated as moderately susceptible, we know that. And then you have maize here, not performing so well in this case. What did it do on yield? That's all we want to know. What I've done here, I've rated the varieties from lowest yielding to highest yielding under the inoculated plots. The yellow component is the nil plot of yield for that variety. And what you can see, obviously, Emu rock, again, stands up quite well. Now, if we compare that to maize, under crown rot, it's actually 300 kilograms per hectare more than maize. When you compare it on the nil plots, then maize actually outperforms emu rock by 200 kilograms. So if you are a grower with this paddock, I'm not going to extrapolate to other paddocks, but if you were the grower with this paddock, you didn't know, you may potentially, if you had crown rot and you didn't know you had it, you may actually lose out of 300 kilograms a hectare. Are you prepared to take that risk? Here are some results from farms, and Shahajahan got the growers really excited, so they've run strips in their paddocks with maize and emu rock. And so we have a direct comparison of the two in a grower's paddock at Salmon Gums and at Lake Grace. And again, you can see emu rock significantly outperformed maize, up to almost 0.4 tonne in this case. Oh, I've gone backwards. I was just thinking, it's the wrong order. Sorry about that. The other thing we did was we looked at whitehead expression in NVT trials, and this is just an example from Salmon Gums. There are a lot of varieties down here. I just want you to look at these, and emu rock is the best performing one. And then you can see some of these other yellow ones. These are, again, the moderately susceptible ones that we know are that, so they do stack up in there. And then you get to the other end. Here's maize here, and cobra is way up the charts with whitehead expression in the plot. Okay, so now looking at the barley, so the same sort of trials we ran again at MacLeod and Wongan Hills. I'm presenting the Wongan Hills. Again, a selection, not all of them. And what you can see, litmus, scope, Latrobe, Bowden. I guess Bowden and scope litmus, they're the ones that perform relatively well in terms of having lower disease in the crowns. And again, showing you the yield, where I've done the same thing. I've ranked it from lowest to highest yielding under the inoculated plots, and then the yellow component is the nil plots. In this particular case, sort of these three are relatively very similar. They would not be significant. So you've got Latrobe, scope, and litmus in that relatively good performing yielding group, and then Bass sits on this other end. Now I should point out again, obviously we are repeating this over the next 2 years, so we will have better trends for these varieties across different seasons and sowing dates, hopefully as well. Now moving on to inter-row sowing, and this is a trial run at Salmon Gums where 3 varieties were put in. Calca is a durum wheat, it's very susceptible, and then you've got maize, and then the moderately susceptible emu rock here. In this particular trial, actually, the on-row and off-row sowing didn't actually have an impact on the moderately susceptible variety. But these higher susceptible ones, you certainly got a difference where off-row sowing, the level of disease was significantly reduced compared to the sowing on the same previous year's row. Another trial, this time with emu rock and maize, and in this particular trial, both varieties actually had an improved yield, whitehead or disease score on when sown off the row. Okay, so you got lower disease sown off the row than on the row. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get a yield response for these trials, but we did get a reduction in disease level. Just to point out that crown rot resistance, there is no resistant variety, but there are varieties that are less susceptible to crown rot. Check your variety guides. We put it in for the first time this year. I need to point out the data comes from the East Coast for this case, but what I would like to say is that the data that I've presented does match up with NVT ratings, so I'm quite confident that the ratings we put in there will relate to the conditions in WA. Next year we will be contributing data to the NVT to add to that. final slide, the 3 key messages, and really that, I mean, there's something that Greg will reiterate, but there is no silver bullet. You need to use a multi-management strategy approach. You can use variety choice, and obviously certainly from the trials that we've run, Emu Rock is performing a lot better under crown rock pressure. And then these ones, the barley, we don't know so much yet, but they were the ones that performed better in this set of years trials. And then the other thing you can certainly do is inter-row sowing as a combined package. And with that, I'm finished.